Hello, this is Al Judge. Welcome to another lesson from my book, From Photos to Art with Photoshop. In this bonus video, I just want to show you a few things we didn't cover in the book or in the lessons that you might find of value. We're going to come here to the Edit menu. We worked quite a bit with Free Transform, but we didn't touch Transform. So I want to show you some of the things it can do. Right now, I have a tower here, and I'm going to click on the perspective tool. When you take a picture like this, your camera is down here somewhere at eye level, and you're looking up. So you frequently get a distortion of perspective as you come up the tower, or if this were a building, same thing. The sides tend to come in together. Even if the tower is the same width across all the way up, it'll look smaller at the top than it does at the bottom. So with this perspective tool, we can change that. We just grab these handles and you can see it changing as I do. Now the only problem is I'm getting some distortion on the truck here. I'll bring him back to look more natural. But at any rate, you can play around with this and you can make it more realistic, where you can see the bottom of the tower is not as significantly different as the top. So that's one thing that we've never talked about before. I want to go to, under the Edit menu, we have a tool here called the Puppet Warp. And when I click on that, you'll see this mesh comes up over my image. And I have a thumbtack here I can use. And I'm going to use this thumbtack to anchor that mesh in certain points. And when I do this, I'm basically telling Photoshop that those points are locked down, they can't move, but the mesh itself can. So it's usually a good starting point to establish a few points that you don't want to move. In this particular case, it doesn't really matter, but I wanted to show you that you can do that. What I want to do is I want to grab this point here, and I want to move it in toward the body. And I want to grab a point here and do the same thing. Okay, and I exaggerated what I'm doing because I want to show you what we can do here. You can see up here in the options bar, I can either show the mesh or not. I'm going to turn that off for a moment. You see all these dots out here, they're my points, but you can also see how it distorted his waist. And people use this tool to make models thinner and all kinds of interesting things. So I can lock that in. See the original? Actually, I discarded it. So anyway, you can see the difference and how easy it is to do it. I'll do it one more time. Puppet Warp. Turn the mesh on. And I actually don't have to pin the side, so I'm just going to grab this. And so you can see we took several inches off his waist very quickly there. Okay, I'm going to step backward. We're going to do something else with this image. First, I'm going to crop it a bit. Right about there. And now I'm going to create a new layer. We duplicate this layer by dragging it down to the icon. Okay, we have a copy now. And that copy, I'm going to do Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical. And you can see now I have that image upside down. So what I want to do is I want to grab that layer and I want to move it down here. And I want to give it a layer mask. Okay, right now that's revealing everything, and that's fine. I want to grab my black paintbrush, and I want to paint it out. Get rid of that large portion of this layer. Okay, now I'm going to move that layer again. And I'm going to use my keyboard to do it. Actually, I need to extend my canvas a bit to make this work. I'm going to do image canvas size, inch to the height, put it all down here. Okay, so now you can see the other image that I had here. And I'm going to flip vertically, and I'm going to start moving it down with my key around here and over here. And what you can see is we're starting to create what looks like a reflection. And you can play around with this. You could add something to make it look like it's water there. You can play with the opacity of the inverted image to make it look a little different. But I think you get the idea that you can make this look like a reflection. I'm going to move that up a bit. And usually it's most convincing when the shoes are pretty close together. But in this case, like I said, he could be standing on a rock right alongside the water. But I just want to show you how you do that. So we will go into something different now. On this transform, edit transform, we also have other tools we can use. We can skew an image, distort it, warp it. And these are things you may want to just come in and open an image and try these things for yourself to see exactly what they do to get an idea how they vary. Because skew, distort, and warp all distort the image quite a bit, but they do it in a different way. I'm not going to demonstrate them all. But like I said, if you open an image and just try it, you may learn a few things. So I'm going to go away from here. I am going to come down here to keyboard shortcuts. And this is a list of all the hotkeys in Photoshop by the menu item. So let's say we're in here, we were just in edit. And it's showing you all the hotkeys that exist. But you'll notice Puppet Warp doesn't have a hotkey. So if Puppet Warp's something you use frequently, you could create your own hotkey. The only challenge is to make sure you pick something that Photoshop has already assigned to something else. But anyway, this is how you do it, and then you just accept and keep it, and you have your own hotkey. We're going to cancel out of that. Let's take another look at the transform. You can also rotate an image 90 degrees, which I'm going to show you right now. because it's kind of interesting what it does. I'm going to take this layer. I'm going to come up here, edit, transform, rotate 90 degrees. And what it does, you see, it leaves the canvas the size it was. Now this is not the disaster it looks like, because we can come in here and take the crop tool and draw it out in both directions and get our original image. Then we have to crop it down this way. Okay, there we get our 90 degrees rotation, but we have a few extra steps involved. I'm going to undo this. And I want to remind you where we did that. It was a transform and rotate 90 degrees. I'll show you another way to do it where we don't have that problem. Come over to Image, Menu, Image Rotation, 90 degrees, it just does the whole image. Okay. Since we're here, I want to talk about, here's some auto adjustments that I used to use when I was very new to Photoshop, because I really didn't know what I was doing, and I used it as a reference to see what it would do compared to what I was doing. Now, most of my images have been worked with quite a bit, and these controls are not going to have much effect on them. But you can see a little bit of difference. So I'm just going to click on Auto Color, which is going to correct the colors according to Photoshop's algorithm. So if you watch the image, when I click this, you will see some change. Not much, but some. Okay, so I'm going to step backward. Anyway, you can try them, but you probably won't use them very long. We talked quite a bit about image size and canvas size, so I don't feel like we need to fool with that. And I want to remind you here about the rotation. And you can flip the canvas just like we did with the Edit menu and Transform. I want to go up to one other thing here. This is real important. Under Image, you have Adjustments, and these are the exact same adjustments as you make with an adjustment layer. The difference is that these are not reversible. So when you use them, usually you want to use them on a layer that is a copy of something else, because you can't go back. You are using permanent adjustments. So just keep that in mind and generally avoid it, but there are a few situations you'll find where you just have no other choice, and you'll know when you get there. It's very rare, but it does happen. I just want to make you aware of that and try and avoid these. Now there's one other thing up here, and I want to tell you what that's all about. Over here in the Filter menu, there's a lot of pretty neat things we can do to instantly transform an image. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but one of the things here is a filter gallery, which is a very valuable thing. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but it gives all kinds of ways to change this image and make it look like a paint, more like a painting or a pencil sketch or whatever. I'm going to cancel out of this. I wanted to show you that first, that it exists, the filter gallery. And now I want to come over to Image. And we're in an 8-bit per channel mode. If I had been in the 16-bit per channel, and I came to Filter, so geez, my filter gallery disappeared. If you didn't know about this, you wouldn't know how to get it back. So I just want to show you when it's not available. When you come here and your filter gallery is not available, you have to come over to Image Mode and change to 8 bits per channel. And now I can go to my filter gallery. So I want to talk briefly about what that's all about. We did a little bit in the last lesson, but I wanted to talk a little more about it. So I'm going to take this image and we'll go to that filter gallery. It's loading right now. It's very large. We're going to make it a little smaller here. Kind of what you say I'm down here, this lower left-hand corner, and I'm clicking on the minus sign. So I can see some pretty close-up detail here. And now I'm going to go to Artistic and start clicking on these things. We have colored pencil. So it'll change that image to look like it was drawn with pencils. Something called cutout. And that's kind of a surrealistic look. Dry brush is often a good one that looks very much like a painting. You can see that. And film grain. I found that film grain is more subtle than a lot of these, but there are times when it really is very effective. I have an image that was taken early on a cold February morning in Sedona. And it was right at sunrise, and there was actually mist in the valley, which rarely happens. But the film grain really brought it out, where it was barely visible in the original photo. So it's not always a dramatic thing you're looking for, but you can also have a subtle effect. Fresco is one of my favorites. I don't know how to work on this, but this is not an ideal image for it, but I have many images that I've done with fresco. Neon glow is kind of strange. Paint daubs. Another painting technique. Palette knife. Another way to paint. And you can play around with these and see which ones you like the best. And you can also adjust them to some degree. So right now I'm going to apply some softness to that. Not seeing a dramatic change. And with stroke detail. A little bit. Stroke size. Now it does take a while for it to catch up to me. You can see it changing right now. So at any rate, for any of these, you also have controls over here that you can try. Poster edge can be an interesting effect sometimes. It just kind of emphasizes all the edges. So I'm going to go out even further so you can see more of what it's doing with that image. Okay, we have different kind of brush strokes we can try. And again, this is something you can just play around with. Distort will give you some interesting effects. This is called Ocean Ripple. And it's sort of looking at it through rippled glass. Sketch is more like charcoal and pencil. And the other thing you'll find out as you do this is that the effects can be dramatically different based on the image. That you can't just say one of these is going to work great all the time. It really depends on the image. And it's hard to guess in advance how well it's going to work. But I will tell you, the better the image quality when you start, the better the effects you'll get here. And again, you can play with the sliders here to get other effects. Also do some texture things. In this case, I'm just adding a lot of texture to the image. And also make it more like stained glass. I just made it smaller tiles. Take it down even further. We'll try that again. Now we'll bring up the light intensity. Okay, I'm really not getting the effect I was hoping, so I'm going to switch to something else. And it's like adding a texture. You can play with the sliders here just the way you want. Okay, this is another one of those areas that you might want to just open an image or two and start playing around and see what you get. I said for architecture, I've gotten some great images with this fresco. But you see it doesn't work so well on this statue, but it really works well with architecture. In fact, let's try something here. Cancel that out and go to the Truckee Tower. I have done this before in fresco. This is not a high resolution image, so I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but let's try it anyway. Close up, you can kind of see what it's doing here. Yeah, you can see a change, and again, if we zoom in a bit, you can see it's beginning to look, it looks a lot like a painting. So you can get some really nice effects on architecture with fresco. I want to do a quick lesson on smart objects. And I'm going to come back to this in just a minute. What I do is I want to have a duplicate of an image, so I'm going to go back to my eagle catcher. I'm going to go to image here and duplicate, and in this case it duplicates the entire image. Now it's only one layer, but it's not going to make it a duplicate layer in this file, it's going to make a new file. So I'm going to duplicate, and it's going to call it copy. So now I have the original and I have the copy. What I want to do is put these, arrange these two up so we can see them both. Now what I want to do here, the image on the left, I'm going to convert to a smart object. So it's under layer, smart objects, convert to smart object. Okay, you see nothing happened, but you see there is an icon down here on the image. And that's telling me it's a smart object. And what a smart object means is no matter what I do to this from here on out, the smart object is protected. The original image is protected. It is not being modified. It's just the size or whatever that you're going to be working with that's going to change. So to give you an example of what this means to us, I'm going to do free transform. Now one thing you'll notice is when it's a smart object, you're going to have these lines across them. So, and this has been cropped. That's why we're seeing an area down here. But anyway, I'm going to hold down my shift key and make this really small. Move it up. And make it even smaller. I made that a pretty small image, and I'm going to lock that in. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this image. Edit, free transform. Now you see there's no lines coming across this because it's just a normal layer, normal object. It's not a smart object. Hold down my shift key. Take this down in size. Position it in the corner. And I want to make it roughly the same as the other one. I think that's pretty close. We can sort of get them close to each other so we can see. Yeah, they're about the same size. I'm going to click on that. So we've shrunk both of them. And now I want to take them back to their original size. So I'm going to start with the smart object. Edit. Free transform. Hold down the shift key. Okay, I'm going to lock that in. Now we're back to our original size image. And it looks just like where we started. I'm going to come over to the other one. Edit. Free transform. Hold down my shift key. And you can see it's starting to pixelate here. Now it's not quite as bad as it looks. It'll change when I release my mouse. I'll lock that in. You can see I lost a lot of image detail. Very fuzzy compared to this one. So this is one of the reasons for making an object a smart object. You'll never have that degradation in image quality if you change size frequently with your image. So I just wanted to show you that aspect of smart objects. Smart objects do a lot more than just this, but it gets rather involved, and I didn't want to get into all those other things. I'm just trying to show you some quick, easy things that you might find valuable. So I'm going to close out this image that we've messed up so bad. Okay. Okay, I want to take this image and let's see if we can't make that look like a oil painting. Might end up being pretty interesting. Notice that my filter gallery is not active, and I could change that by coming over here and changing the big mode. But I'm just going to leave it because I'm not going to fool with that. I'm not going to be using a filter gallery. I'm going to use oil paint. You can see it's starting to make it look like an oil painting already. You can come in here and you can play with the sliders and change the effect. You can play with shine. That's often interesting what that'll do. Sort of gives it more texture. It's the way the light hits it. Anyway, you can see in just a matter of seconds I converted this into something that looks like an oil painting. Okay, I think we're going to call it quits for now. I just wanted to show you a few things that we hadn't talked about before that I think you might find useful. I hope that you found the series and the book to be very valuable, and I hope that in a very short period of time you'll feel totally comfortable with Photoshop and be creating wonderful images. So thanks for watching, thanks for buying my book, and I'll see you in the next book.